All right, so in this video, we are going to learn how to do long division with remainders, but without writing the R and then the remainder. So hang on and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Quick hint, it has something to do with decimals. All right, so let's get started. Okay, I think you can see most of my whiteboard there. All right, cool. All right, so let's start with a problem like 65 divided by 4. Okay, so just like we learned last week, we start with the first digit. We want to remember our lineup is divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and then repeat. Okay, so we're going to divide. How many times can 4 fit into 6? 1 time. We're going to multiply. 4 times 1 is 4. And we're going to subtract. 6 minus 4 is 2. And now we're going to bring down our next digit. And we get 25. So how many times, now we repeat, we go back up to divide. How many times does 4 fit into 25? 4 fits into 25 6 times. 4 times 6 is 24. Subtract, and we get 1. So now normally this would be the point where we would write 16 remainder 1, but we are moving up a level in our division skills as 5th graders now, and we're going to learn how to add a decimal instead of the remainder. Okay, so when we get to this point, I'm gonna erase that. When we get to this point, what we can do is we can add another 0 into our dividend, and when we do that, we add a decimal to the end of our answer. And now we have a 0 that we can bring down and keep our problem going. So now we've added our 0, we've added a decimal point, and then we've brought down that 0. So we're going to go back and divide again. How many times can 4 fit into 10? 4 can fit into 10 2 times. 4 times 2 is 8. Subtract, and we get 2. Okay, so again, at this point, now we can add another 0 because we don't want to be stuck with a remainder. So we can add another 0. We're not going to add another decimal point up here because you can only have one decimal point in a number. So all we have to do is add another 0. We're going to bring it down. And now we have 20. So how many times can 4 fit into 20? It can fit in 5 times. 4 times 5 is 20. Subtract, and now we have 0. So our answer, instead of being 16 remainder 1, like we would have originally gotten, our answer is 16.25. All right, so let's do another one. Okay. Let's do 252 divided by 8. All right, so start the same way we always do. Can 8 go into 2? No, it can't, so we're going to move on to the 25. Can 8 fit into 25? Yes, it can. It can fit in 3 times. So notice how I put the 3 on top of the 5, not on top of the 2, right? So if 8 were to fit into 2, we would put that number above the 2, but since it cannot fit into 2 and we moved on to the 25, we're going to put the number of times 8 can fit into it above the 5, okay? So 8 times 3 is 24. I'm going to subtract, and I get 1. So now I have another 2 to bring down. I'm going to bring that number down. And now I have 12. So how many times can 8 fit into 12? 8 can fit into 12 1 time. 8 times 1 is 8. We're going to subtract, and we get 4. Okay, so again, normally we would just say, okay, now the answer is 31 remainder 4. But instead, we're going to add another 0 to our dividend, and we're going to add a decimal point up there with our answer. So now we have another 0 that I can bring down and turn this into 40. How many times can 8 fit into 40? 8 can go into 45 times. 8 times 5 is 40. We subtract and we have 0. So now our problem is finished and our answer is 31.5. Okay, let's do one more problem in this video. Okay, let's do 34 divided by 5. Okay, so can 5 fit into 3? No, 5 can't fit into 3, so we're going to move on to 34. Can 5 fit into 34? And the answer is yes. 5 can fit into 34 6 times. 5 times 6 is 30. Now we're going to subtract, and we get 4. And now we have 4 left, and so instead of making this our remainder, we're going to add a 0 to our dividend, and we're going to add a decimal point after our original answer. So now we can bring down that 0, and we get 40. Can 5 fit into 40? And the answer is yes, it can fit in 8 times. 5 times 8 is 40. We subtract, and we get 0. So our answer is 6.8.